Hi, I'm adventure journalist Jamie Moy, and this is the Core Outdoors Speaker Series. Once a month, Core offers this free online webinar to stoke inspiration and to share information about the outdoor rec tech space. Today, we're joined by Ricky Lee Jones. Ricky is the founder of North 45. He's also the former manager of two multi-million dollar brands. Ricky's got a proven approach to strategic paid advertising that he's going to break down for you. I'm going to turn the floor over to Ricky, but a couple logistics items first. There will be time at the end for some Q&A, so you can hold your questions until the end. Or if you're so inspired, go ahead and pop your question as it arises into the chat. I'll be monitoring the chat, and then I can go ahead and pose that question to Ricky as he's going. That kind of interaction is definitely fun. It's not interruptive, so don't be shy. With that, Ricky, the floor is yours.
Okay, fantastic. Hi, everyone. My name is Ricky Jones. I'm speaking to you today about strategic paid advertising. And one of the things I'll touch on is a journey from 50K to 1.5 million and how this relates to your brand and how you can grow it via these same strategies. So strategic paid advertising is kind of like a megaphone to amplify your brand's voice. So if you have a good messaging, you have an interesting brand, a great product, this is just a way for you to kind of increase the voice that you have in getting in front of people and having them know more about you, your brand, your products, etc. Ads are great because they're measurable, they're safe, and they're reliable. It's a really surefire way to like increase your revenues. It's not like, let's say, buying a big billboard on the side of the highway where you have to invest $5,000 or $10,000 one shot, and hopefully it'll bring in a return. As entrepreneurs, it's really important for us to minimize our risk and maximize our returns. And strategic paid advertising is a way that you can really like dip your toes in advertising and go at it very progressively, and in a way that you can measure mathematically and just increase as you see it working. Ads also can be like explosively and profitably like a great way to scale your revenues. Every once in a while, you're going to see like you're like this product, this ad that I have right now, that specific like creative content, it's just working, looks profitable. I'm going to double the ad budget. You double the ad budget, you see a couple days later, like, wow, like my revenue's doubled. Double your budget again, you see that it's increasing. Like sometimes this can go really aggressively, and we'll talk about this with some examples that I've had in my career. And it's kind of addictive. It's really exciting when you hit something that's kind of taking off. And ads are one path of many you can choose to grow your company. So I'm going to be talking about strategic paid advertising, but maybe it's not for your business. Maybe there's a different route that you're specialized in as an entrepreneur, and you don't feel as comfortable with ads. And maybe that's okay for this stage of your business as you're growing. Maybe retail sales is better for you to focus on. So as always, we need to choose what we're focusing on and say no to other opportunities, even though it's shiny and interesting. But hopefully at the end of this presentation, you're gonna consider strategic paid advertising as something that you want to implement right away, or maybe sometime in the future. And hoping to pique your interest with it. So who am I and why am I the presenter? So a bit about me. I'm originally from Quebec, in the Laurentians. Grew up skiing at Mont Saint-Sever. I spent my teenage years snowboarding 2 to 5 times a week. And then I kind of like my early 20s, just like hyper focused on my career in Montreal, and really like lost my connection with mountain sports. And about 3.5 years ago, I moved to Canmore to, just be back in the mountains, go snowboarding as much as I can, cycling, climbing, etc. It's been fantastic, and I'm super stoked to be a member of the West Coast Canadian mountains. It's great to be here. I split board, cycle, hike, climb. I enjoy music, fashion, movies, design, and delicious food. I also have an Australian Shepherd named Autumn, who I adore very much. She's at my feet right now. And I have over 9 years in advertising technology startups. So I've worked for advertising technology companies. I've worked in advertising, specifically digital marketing, for both app companies as well as for consumer goods brands. And yeah, I've managed kind of like 4 brands now. So I know everything from, you know, having to make do with essentially no money, to having like big brand budget and being able to spend and make big moves and see how that affects kind of a brand of a larger scale. I specialize in brand strategy, so brand positioning, vision, kind of product development, etc. Brand marketing as well, so advertising, influencer marketing, etc. Kind of the full range, and just business management in general. So like running a business day to day, and you know, experiencing all the things that I'm sure many people on this call experience. So the wearing all hats at the same time. I've managed between about $1 million and $2 million in ad spend across Facebook, Instagram, Google, and Amazon, with a specific like focus on Facebook, Instagram, and Amazon. My first business that I was involved in Montreal, so we had a bespoke Italian shoe company. We could essentially, we created a mobile app. You could take 3 photos of your foot. We'd get the exact like morphology of your foot or a very close representation. And then we can have like an top Italian shoemaker like craft those shoes for you and have it delivered to your house within 2 to 3 weeks. So I did that for about 2 years, where we built out all the technology, had the company running, and you know, eventually was just very broke. And you know, we decided to put that project aside. About 8 months later, I started working with a consumer goods fund in Montreal called Nolk. So Nolk purchases digitally native brands, so brands that sell direct consumer online. And I started managing Locktote for them. Locktote was a Sharks Tank company. If you go through Sharks Tank, you'll see this brand. Started off with a Kickstarter and Indiegogo campaigns that raised over $1 million. The founder then ran the company for about another year, and then he sold it to our fund. Within about 3 or 4 months from managing the brand, I restructured all of their Facebook advertising, and I brought their company from a record month of like $325,000 in sales to $650,000 in sales within a month. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying, like when you find ads, when you set up the Facebook ads correctly, when you find an ad creative that works, you can really just improve like the revenues like within a very short period of time. So I remember sitting down with the founders of the Consumer Goods Fund and being like, hey guys, I'm new to the company. So I don't want to like hold all the risk here, but you know, if we make a shared decision, I really think with how we've set up the advertising, if we increase the ad budget, we're just going to increase revenues. Like I suggest maybe like 50%, you know, and we'll see that after a couple of days and increase. And I remember the CEO looking at me and being like, double the ad budget every 2 days, look at the metrics. If the metrics are good, double it again. I was like, cool. So then we increased the ad budget from, I think we were running about $500 a day and making about $2,500 in sales at that point, which is kind of that October low point of the season, to running in December. I think we were up to like $15,000 or $18,000 in ad spend every single day, and just increasing, increasing from there. So we did about 650K that December, sold out all of our product, and then just as our big order that was coming in hit, then COVID hit, and this was a great brand for traveling. So it was anti-theft travel bags you can lock up to immobile devices, and then it was cut resistant, and the straps were cut resistant, and as you could see, you could lock it. So yeah, interesting product, but very tough, and then managed that all the way through COVID. So knew the highs and the lows of this brand. During that period, I also managed this phone mount brand. So the same founder then sold us this product. He invented it, sold it to the fund only 2 months after launching it. It did 50K in revenue at that point, 25K over 2 months. I was able to take the brand, completely position it how I wanted to, which was like, okay, we're going to go after custom Harley Davidsons, because a magnetic mount looks really good. You can remove it so it doesn't hinder the aesthetic of the bike. And obviously custom Harley people spend a lot of money on their bikes. So We positioned the brand, had a good creative, launched it, and we scaled this brand from 50K to 1.5 million in about 15 months. And then there's North 45. So this is my personal brand. Throughout all of these brands I showed you, I've been kind of growing this very slowly on the side, initially with my family, now just full-time myself. Yeah, we grew it from about $4,000 a year to where it is now in the kind of 6-digit range. We do anti-fog balaclavas that actually work. So they can either be worn with sunglasses or with goggles. You'll get no fog, get unrestricted breathing. And yeah, it's a really great product made with merino wool, so it's sustainable too. And that's what I'm focusing on right now. And I've also taken on a contract to be the sales representative for Vallon Eyewear. So it's a European sunglasses brand, particularly famous for their really high quality glacier glasses. So I rep these as well, selling to shops here in the west coast of Canada. So from 50K to 1.5 million. So Freakmount is the brand example I'm going to give you. The reason I want to focus on this brand is because I really started with it from fresh. It was making about 25K a month, 2 months in a row. I was essentially a one-person team with this. I had a bit of help on the accounting side, a bit on logistics, so just placing the orders with the factories, and ensuring that like our logistics and fulfillment center was set up. Otherwise, it was mainly just like scaling advertising. So initially the brand, I determined the ideal target audience, custom Harley Davidsons. I developed a brand identity around it, and then started advertising. So we did a good ad and then we just pushed that through. Within just 12 months, we went from 50K to 1.5 million. On a monthly basis, that's going from 25K to $200,000 in 7 months. We did all of this with 30% net profit margins. And as you see at the bottom, made my boss very, very happy. Essentially how this rolled out is the first thing I think with advertising, and a part of why I said, advertising is one of many ways to scale your brand, because it's really important to have like a good understanding about your business financials. If you're a bit more of a creative or a maker and you don't have a good grasp on your financials, maybe there's other ways you should focus on now. Or if you did want to scale your advertising, it would be important to bring in somebody who can really help you grasp your business numbers and then be able to monitor your advertising. What's kind of important is just understanding what's the sales that I'm doing, what is my gross margin, so how much is my product costing versus how much I'm selling it for, is that high enough, and then what is the net margins that I'm comfortable with. So once you kind of understand, oh, okay, maybe I'm comfortable with something between 15 to 30% net margins, let's say 25% to make it easy. My product costs 25% of my sales price, so I have a $25 cost of my product and I sell it for $100, let's say. I think I have it. I'll show it later, but yeah, you're like, okay, well then I have about 50% profit there that I can then spend on advertising. So I have 25% product cost, 25% ad budget, let's say, and then there's like that 50% left. So then, yeah, you just, then that you can spend about anywhere from like 25 to 50-ish dollars on your advertising. And then that sets you like your benchmarks. You're like, if every day I'm spending $100 on ads, I should be expecting $400 in sales. And then once you have a good grasp of your numbers like that, you can watch and you could see, oh, this ad it has been working. Like my revenues increase. If I increase my budget by 30% or 50%, I wait a week. Did my revenues scale? Does it look like this makes sense? And then you increase your budget again, or you just hold it there, if you're happy with how much you're selling at that point. So that's what we did. We kind of jumped into the financials of this brand. Then we crafted a killer ad, which I'll show you in the next slide. And yeah, so essentially then I just like did the same thing with my boss. I was like, hey, looks like we can scale this. I'm going to sell just enough product to sell out in about a month and a half. I know that my order is going to come in a month and a half. So then I literally just planned my advertising spend based on that. I'm like, at let's say $500 a day, I know I'm selling about $2,500. That's going to make sure that I sell about this much product within that window. I know that the product's going to arrive. And then we had like a double sized order coming in. When that order came in, we just increased the advertising kind of slowly over about a week or so. And then, yeah, it seemed like all of our numbers were matching up again and just kept it at about $1,000 a day in ads and selling $5,000 a day. So then we did that for another 6 weeks. The next order came in that was double the previous order, and we went. This works because one, I think I'll touch on it later actually, so I won't jump into that now. But this is the ad we did, and this is great. The founder created this original ad, not a high production value, but it's very descriptive. And when you're trying to just get sales, it's really important to touch on your product features. So this is the ad that we sold about $1.5 million with. As you see in the first like 5 seconds of your video, you should really like capture what the value proposition of your brand is. So that's super important. As we saw in this one, you immediately see like a bike going with no phone mount to a bike with a phone mount. And then they just touch on all of the key features of the brand or of the product. So within this video, they touched on some important points, like when you have your phone, you're like, is it going to scratch my tank? That's one of your customers' like concerns. They're like, oh, cool, but like, I don't want to scratch my Harley's tank. They show, oh, it's rubber coated. They put it on the bike. It's a relatively nice bike. So, you know, it inspires a bit of confidence. They show with that leaf blower, like it holds at high speeds. Although I'd argue that actually driving a bike at high speeds and showing it is a bit of a better frame. You know, it answers that question too. Oh, okay, my phone's not going to fly off my bike. Yeah, so it checks off all the points. So like, that's what's important when you're looking at that for, sorry. So why this worked. We had a great product market fit. There was literally nothing in the market that like looked good and held your phone safely on the bike while being removable. There was all those really ugly like cases. We had effective ad creative. We had short production lead time, so we can get product really fast. Like it only took about 6 weeks with shipping from our factory in China, like delivered to us into our fulfillment center and ready to ship. So that allowed us to get this kind of really fast growth going. We had essentially unlimited budget for inventory orders. So if I told them that we needed, you know, 5,000 units ordered, then we could get that. And we had a strong focus on what was delivering results. Within this period, we literally did 0 social posts. I think we had like 6 posts on Instagram initially, but I was literally the only person on the team running it. And I was running this brand while running Locktoe. So yeah, I just scaled up advertising. I literally didn't do any influencer campaigns, didn't do any social posts, didn't play with the website too much. So I do think that this is like really a prime example, and it's something nice, but it's not always the case either. It's not always that easy, but it's great to show just how powerful ads can be. So the benefits of strategic paid advertising, it allows you to target really specific people. It allows you to scale in a very adaptable way. Like, hey, if something happens, you get a batch of products in that are defective, you can literally just cut your advertising from one day to the next and go from $10,000 a day to nothing. So it's really flexible, and that's great. It provides measurable returns on investment. As mentioned, once you figure out your numbers, you can really just look at it and be like, okay, well, it's profitable right now. If I increase budget and my numbers just scale up in the same manner, like the ratios stay the same, you're like, cool, that's great. I'm getting more revenues and I'm spending more on advertising, but I have the same profit percentages. So yeah, precise budget control and optimization. You can do real-time adjustments, and yeah, you can occasionally experience well-controlled periods of like hyper growth. The key financial metrics, this is something that I wanted to break down. So let's say we have a $100 average order value. Our gross margin is 75%. That means we have $75 to play with. We have a customer acquisition cost of 25%, let's say $25 a customer. That means there's $50 there of profit. So then once you pay your teams or graphic designers or the video, et cetera, that you did, whatever is left is what you can take home. So yeah, let's say this $25 percentage, 25% customer acquisition cost, $100 average order, that'd be a 4x return on ad spend. I will send a Google Sheets document to either Jamie or Vince from the core team, like somebody who can then push that out to you. This is a way for you to track your advertising. So this is a very manual way, not automated in any sense. You can go in on a daily point and be like, okay, can everybody see the Excel sheet, by the way? Jamie, do you?
Yeah, I can see it. Looks good.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So essentially, let's say you're running Amazon or Shopify, you can put in your revenues per day that you're getting. You then put in here like your Facebook ad cost, your Google ad cost, your Amazon. It'll calculate it daily, the totals, and then it'll tell you what percentage of advertising cost you're running. And it's kind of nice when you're starting out to have a document like this because you can track how it goes up and down. You know, it's completely normal too if ever you're starting to get into this that, yeah, some days it might be 14, the next day it might be 38. Like advertising is predictable on like a week or couple day basis, like, but there's definitely like this up and down and you pull an average from it. But yeah, like with this, you can track like on a month-to-month basis or on a day-to-day basis how your ads are performing and start getting a good grasp of patterns and, you know, start seeing like, oh, okay, like in this period, I'm looking at around 25% or let's say, yeah, somewhere around 25%. You're like, okay, that's great. I can live with that. Some periods it's going up higher and, you know, then you can try and make hypothetical reasons as to why that is. Is it a special sales day, like where there's a lot of competition on the ads and you have more people trying to spend, or, you know, was it a down day because you ran out of stock on your best-selling product or something like that? But yeah, having this and tracking it on day-to-day gives you a really good grasp of what's going on, a finger on the pulse, as we could say. How to target. So it's important to understand the customer journey and what kind of content that you should tailor to your customers based on where they're at. So the initial stage, like awareness, this is like, give me 2 seconds, please. Just take some. Yeah, so at the top level, you have awareness. So this is people that may have never heard of your brand before. They may come in contact with your brand through movie sponsorships, event sponsorships, your social media, for example. What else? Maybe ads that you're pushing that are just like really trying to teach people a bit about your brand identity, your brand values, the kind of character of your brand. So the goal at this stage of the funnel is to just show people a bit of who you are. It's kind of like first impression. You're trying to connect with them a bit more emotionally than you are trying to sell them a product. Then the next stage of the funnel, you have consideration. So that's creating informative content ads that explain how your products or services can solve specific problems. I'll give you some examples of what that looks like in future slides. And then conversion content. This helps convince the client to make the purchase. This could be customer reviews, influencer, athlete, or gear review content, promotions like, let's say, 10% off or free shipping at this point or free gift with purchase, etc. and retargeting ads. So just trying to stay in front of your customer and reminding them of these things, or just trying to keep your product top of mind so that they can go ahead and actually click buy and place that order. And lastly, community building content for loyalty. So this is initiatives that help maintain or grow your customer relationships. This is like regular newsletters, let's say gear repair programs, great customer service, gifts to VIP customers, attending like events that are important in that industry or to that niche of individual. So yeah, there's kind of these four. And to be clear, for example, with like Freakmount, we really focused on informing and converting in that first year. So yeah, when it comes to targeting, you can target people through Facebook and stuff like that. Age, gender, location, and language. One caveat I'd like to say here, unless you're a service-based business or you have some kind of restrictions on where you're delivering product to or your services, it's typically better to go broad rather than a narrow. So I know as maybe individuals who live like myself in Canmore or the Kootenays or along the coast, you may be like, oh, like I want to focus my ad on my hometown area because yeah, I think that'll do best. I'm not really ready to kind of sell across the country. That said, Facebook is really good at targeting people that are ready to buy. So have you ever like, I don't know, looked up like a pair of like hiking shoes? Let's say you're like looking at new hiking boots. All of a sudden, the only ads you're starting to see in your feed are hiking boots. This is because Facebook can tell that you've clicked through a certain website that may have had some kind of tracking, and now it knows you're interested in hiking boots. Every brand that's pushing ads to male or females living in Western Canada that have hiking as an interest and are selling boots, you're going to get their ads. So Facebook knows who's about to buy. And when you have a broader location, it's able to get those individuals that are like closest to buying, and you'll get better returns on your money. So to be honest, with North 45, we advertise to Canada and the US, broad targeting. And, we're often shipping orders to like Texas, Florida, these are the kind of snowbird clients that are traveling, maybe once or twice a year for a big snowboarding trip or skiing trip. And Facebook is able to tell that they're making ski and snow sports like purchases at that moment, even though they're in Florida. Then you can utilize interests. So after you've kind of narrowed down your age, gender, location, you can then target them based on their hobbies, favorite activities, and brands they follow. So if you're kind of a budget brand, you might target like similar budget brands. Maybe you're going to go after like skiing as an activity, and then you're going to narrow it down by saying brands they follow, and you're going to go after like Columbia or the North Face, and if you're like an expensive product, you might do the opposite where you go skiing and then you go brands that they follow, and you're going to go Arc'teryx, Helly Hansen, Nerona or something like this. And like that, you've now like brought your target audience down to like that premium clientele. And yeah, you can also leverage behavioral data, people that have interacted with your company in the past via the website visits or engagement with your social media. And lastly, you can do lookalike audiences, which are, you can provide like your customer list to Facebook. Facebook will then take that customer list and extrapolate it and be like, these are all the individuals we think are similar to your clients. So these are just a few ways. And, we can't touch on like exactly all the like execution aspects of this in this call, but we can like touch on these main points. And, as you go into YouTube videos, or let's say you take a course like on Coursera or something like that, keep these in mind as kind of buckets of individuals you can target. So yeah, as we mentioned, there's awareness. Then you have Then you have like information, like informing, consideration, and brand loyalty. So brand awareness is an important stage of the customer journey. So yeah, it increases the more a customer will see you across platforms, events, etc. It creates like a familiarity, so they're going to trust you more as a brand. They're going to recognize it, maybe be able to speak about it a bit more to other people. It helps in differentiating yourself from competitors and establishing like a presence in the market. Like, oh, this brand is around. They're actually doing things. I know about them. I've seen them like 5, 10 times. Influencers and athlete partnerships are great for this, like reaching broader audiences and gaining credibility. And I have here in bold and underlined like boosting your social posts. So I see this often with giveaways, like product giveaways, as well as like just social media. These are activities that you or your team are spending a lot of time and effort on. And why wouldn't you give it a megaphone? Like during the season, the ski season, North 45, we're spending like at least $5 a day just boosting our latest social post. If we've already spent like, $100 worth of like human resources, like creating this social post, maybe we've had to pay a photographer, to do a shoot and stuff. Like there's a lot of costs that go into managing your social media or creating a giveaway where you had partners that you brought on board. So you've already spent money on this. Like the amount that you can spend through boosting, maybe $5 a day, $25 per post. It really allows you to get that reach from maybe your small audience of a few thousand people on your social media to like getting that single post out to like 10,000 or 15,000 people. This will help you get more follower signups in your social media. And yeah, this allows you to have a brand awareness campaign without having to set up any sophisticated like Facebook ads or, creating a strategy for it. Like just boost your social posts every day. And then talking about social proof, like conversion ads. So showcasing case studies, success stories are great to like demonstrate the effectiveness of your product. Leveraging customer testimonials and reviews is a great way to do that too. So if we go back to the sales funnel, like right here in this conversion stage, people might be on the edge of buying. So they've seen your social posts you've been boosting. They've seen your ad promoting your tent or your bike wheels or hats, in North 45's case, balaclavas. So they understand your product, how it works. Now they're like not sure if they should pull the trigger or not and like go ahead and make that purchase. Show them an ad that an influencer used your product and what they had to say about it. Like use other people's voices to help convince that individual to make the purchase on your website. So how to craft a killer ad. Super important. Sometimes like I see like with beginners in advertising, they want to make an ad sexy and they don't want it to be too salesy. And there's definitely like an art and a balance there of communicating important information and making an ad like interesting and engaging. The truth is if I had to choose between one or the other, I would choose a informative ad over like some kind of very ephemeral like ad that kind of like you watch and you're like, wow, that was like cool videography, but like you're like, what are they even selling, So as you'll see with many of the ads I've created in the past, it's like really important to get straight to the point. People are like they're scrolling by as each year passes, like people spend less time on each individual thing they see on the internet. It needs to be quick and easy to capture. So focus on your value proposition right away. We pushed this ad in the Cold Snap in January of this year. And as you can see, we have like an image here. We took this photo. It's me on a like cold, windy day up in the Icefields Parkway. My colleague Jonah put text on top, take the chill out of -40, test it in the frigid Canadian Rockies. At the top, merino wool headwear to conquer the cold. You get it. When it's cold outside, you read this ad, you're like, interesting, click through. We did a lot of sales in 2 weeks with this ad during that cold snap. So yeah, attention grabbing headlines, strong visuals. So I think it's super important to use high quality images or videos that are relevant to your product and your target audience. And then clear call to actions like shop now or learn more. Here's some examples of ads that we've run in the past with like Freak Mount.
You guys know I've used all sorts of phone mounts, and the Freak Mount is awesome because it's
Sorry for the quality here.
profile and easy to use for multiple different things. Like when I'm making content or I'm running errands, I can easily just throw the whole phone and mount in my pocket. Or when I'm switching from bike to bike, super easy. I definitely recommend adding one to your phone mount roster on and off the bike. I love this thing. It is freaking awesome.
She's a very famous like motorcycle influencer, very well known in the custom motorcycle scene. So that gives like brand credibility there. She went straight to the point, talked about why she likes the product, how it works. And as you see here in the headline, like, or in the description, tried, tested, positively reviewed by thousands of real riders just like you, works on any metal tank, fits in your pocket, sleek and discreet, won't ruin the look of your bike. Free standard shipping at the bottom, you know? Here's another ad that they're running right now. So they go, magnetic motorcycle phone mount made extra clingy, won't scratch your tank, holds at high speeds, non-permanent fixture, sleek and discreet. So these are really great like conversion ads or informing ads for that mid-section of the funnel. Here, lower in the funnel, this is North 45. Marcus, Confessions of a Ski Bum, who some of you may know, he does the guidebook for the Icefields Parkway and kind of Banff Lake Louise area for backcountry skiing. So he had a great review that he wrote on his website about our product. So we do a brief like review of it here and we link the actual article. Like people that you work with, whether that's gear reviewers or influencers, like directing traffic to them is an added bonus. And it's another way of like securing influencer partnerships is saying like, hey, not only will we like maybe pay you for this review or just give you free product, but like we're going to push our retargeting traffic to your website so that more people read what you think about our product. So I don't know, we've sent like thousands and thousands of people to Marcus's website to read his review about our balaclava because he wrote a great review.
You guys know I've used all sorts.
Let me get this. Nope. In terms of content, I want to start focusing on like high quality content and ad sizes. Like it's important to work with quality graphic designers that are able to do interesting layouts. It's going to elevate your brand and it's going to help you sell. This is an ad we did for Dice Magazine. It's kind of the coffee table magazine for custom motorcycles. So yeah, just wanted to show you like a cool ad that we did for that brand. Also, there's different ad sizes for Facebook, depending if it's going to be a story or if it's going to be like in the feed. So whenever you do ads, work with a graphic designer or work with your videographer or photographer, get your image in both like portrait as well as horizontal, as well as like square images. There's nothing worse than spending money on Facebook and then your clients seeing like an ad that was like designed to be a portrait cropped really weird for their desktop, you know, and then it just doesn't look good. Like that's definitely going to hinder your performance. So one of the important things is like when you do start looking at creating an ad, make sure you just like find the correct ad formats and adhere to them. This is just like I Googled like Facebook ad specifications and this Hootsuite like article had this here. So super easy for you to find that information on Google. And then you can provide like a diagram like this to whatever creative you're working with.
Hey, Ricky,
Yeah.
we had an AI presentation on one of these monthly webinars, and Kyle was wondering if you ever leveraged AI for your ad copy and content.
Totally. Well, actually, I'd like to say this whole presentation was using ChatGPT, and this presentation used Plus AI. So totally. With ad content, as well as this presentation, I use ChatGPT a lot of times for initial idea brainstorming or rewriting text that I have. So let's say I have like a bit of an ad concept. I'm going to be like, yeah, maybe I write it, then I'll send it to ChatGPT. One, it might improve like my writing a little bit. But it might also structure in a way where I'm like, oh, that's an interesting sentence. So I might just take a single sentence from that dialogue I had with ChatGPT, and then I'll put it into my ad and I'll riff off of that. So I use it, and I don't use it as like, I send it to ChatGPT, I grab it, I stick it directly into my ad, but I do use it as this kind of feedback tool. And I think it's really great for entrepreneurs to play with this too, because sometimes, especially when our business is like really small, it kind of feels like we're in a, like an echo chamber, like we're just talking to ourselves. We're all alone at home working on our computer. And yeah, ChatGPT can be a way for you to like put out an ad concept idea, get some kind of feedback iteration on it, riff off of that a little bit, come up with a second version. So definitely use ChatGPT for headlines and descriptions and stuff like that. In the case of this presentation, what did I do? I gave it like a broad outline of the topics I wanted to speak about and best practices of like advertising to like scale your brand. And it gave me a bunch of talking points. And I chose from those ones which ones I thought were pertinent, added in specifics that I think like came from me and my experience. And then, yeah, I just did this iterative process with ChatGPT. Then I grabbed my ChatGPT text, which Jamie, I had sent you in the email. I'm like, this is a synopsis of the presentation. So I generated that working back and forth with ChatGPT. And then I fed this into Plus AI, which is the presentation document, the presentation program. And it spit out like the kind of format, the design, et cetera. And then I was able to at least have this like starting point where I can then move some slides around, remove some, add some, redesign some, et cetera. And yeah, so I did listen to the presentation on AI. I suggest for anybody who hasn't listened to it to go onto the core website, find that webinar, listen to it. It's going to be beneficial to you on the long term, as well as a presentation last month, which was about how to launch a product. And it just talks on some really good points that I think are complementary to today's presentation.
Nice. Thanks so much for that. I just also want to give you a time check. We're at the 15-minute mark. So we just want to make sure we leave maybe 5 minutes at the end for questions.
Okay, I'll blast through this a little bit. One of the things I think is super important is the quality of content. And I want to say from the beginning, especially small businesses, sometimes we don't have budget to do expensive shoots, but quality doesn't necessarily mean expensive. It could mean that you've invested a lot of time in figuring out like the good content that works for your brand, or shooting stuff yourself, et cetera. But on the right is like the Arc'teryx store in Beijing, China, and like on the left is like, who knows, like some cheap Hawaiian shirt like store. The content you use on your website and in your ads is like the interior design that you do in your retail shop. Like content is literally the furniture of your website. And I think that's super important. Like this is what your clients are going to feel when they visit your website, your social media, your ads. You need to curate that experience and make it relevant to the price point of product that you have. If you're selling cheap Hawaiian shirts, like you may not need to invest in high quality content that much. But if you do have an expensive product, which gear often is, you need to make sure that your content is matching that. I want to show you examples. Like high quality content will increase the effectiveness of each dollar you spend. It'll increase your engagement and conversion metrics. Your clients will trust you more. You'll make more sales and higher profit. North 45, we were running one ad. As you see here, the difference is this bottom one, the carousel. We spent less money on it. We generated maybe 30% more sales. We had more click-throughs. The cost to get a customer clicking onto our website was less. Yeah, all around just makes a significant difference. 30% more purchases for this less money spent. That's huge. That could be the difference between you making money with your ads and you losing money with every dollar spent on Facebook. This is small business cases. I'm really going to go through this, but let's say quickly, You're making $250K a year. You're spending $7,500 on content each year, which is really not that much. 25% of your sales is getting spent on ad spend, $62,000. You have a $70,000 average like cost of advertising for that year. Same scenario, 250K in sales, you've doubled your ad spend. So your ads have actually decreased in cost on the long term. So instead of spending 62,000, you're spending, I think it's like 40 something here. Your cost of advertising could drop if you spend more on ensuring that your advertising is actually interesting. The videos and photos on your website are really engaging. As you increase the scale of your business, this makes a bigger and bigger difference. If you double your budget from 25K to 50K a year, and you're able to drop 7.5% in terms of the cost of your advertising for each sale that you make, you could be saving $200 or $175,000 on a $2.5 million brand. Once again, want to say high quality doesn't necessarily mean expensive, but high quality, invest time and energy and resources into figuring out what ads work for your business and doubling down on what works. I want to talk quickly about A/B testing. Let me go here. One of the things I see, even with experienced individuals, is they don't operate their tests like a scientist would. It's really important to isolate variables. So if you want to test an ad versus another, you want to keep your headline the same, your description the same. You keep the ad essentially the same, change just the image. Run that test, and then make a conclusion from it. Oh, photo was better, or video was better than photo in this case. We increased our click-through rate. Our ads are more profitable. Good. But don't go and change the headline, the description, and then the photo, because you can't associate what the change was which change made the difference. So super important to look into what isolating variables mean and really making sure you're changing one thing at a time per test. And then next, statistical significance. I've seen even very experienced marketers running tests, and they're we tested 2,000 things in this 1 week period. And it's great, but you haven't you haven't spent enough money on each of those 2,000 things to even know what worked or didn't work. You need to be able to show statistical significance. If you search up conversion or statistical significance marketing or whatever, there's calculators, statistical significance calculator. You'll be able to put in some websites and be 1,000 people visited. The amount of sales was 90 with this one and 120 with that one. And then it'll tell you how certain they are of the test that you did and the results that you got. Make sure that you're spending enough time / money testing an ad before making a decision. So Q&A. I have some questions here that I prepared, but I'd really like to hear from other people what questions you may have, and we'll spend the time on those to help you.
So I'd say, folks, feel free to come off mute. Let's hear your voices and let's chat. And while we're doing that, I do see one question in the chat from Michael. So he was wanting to know what kind of client brand entices Ricky Lee most to work with and why?
Thanks. Yeah, it's a good question. I really like working with brands that have strong differentiation. I don't really like working with Me Too brands. I've seen really good success on products that are quite different, or brands that are quite different. I think we're in a sea of everything becoming more and more the same. I listened to some content recently talking about coffee shops. It doesn't matter whether you're in Montreal or Vancouver or Shanghai or London, you can find a cafe with white tiles across the wall, with succulent plants on the side, with a neon sign that says "I love coffee," and they serve flat whites, right? We can almost picture it in our heads. So the brands that interest me the most are brands that are willing to invest in like content, taking a bold like brand personality, having a product that's premium and really differentiated. Like, I think this makes a significant difference, and it sets the brand up for success. Because yeah, in a sea of like everything being the same, if you can stand out and be bold, at least you'll get people's attention with your advertising.
How about this one from Vince? Did Freakmount or any of your other clients pay for influencers or just send them product?
We would do a mix. There are some levels of influencers who are willing to take product, and there's some that won't work without being paid. I think it really depends on what you want to achieve with that. Freakmount, the first influencer we worked with, is a woman in LA. Her name is Audrey Law. She is super cool. She's a photographer. She has really great like artistic style. She was a model for like Harley Davidson campaigns, and she like she was like organizer for two major like custom bike and custom vintage car shows. So she was like a tastemaker within the industry. Our first photo shoot with her, we like paid $7,000 for, I don't know, 20 or 25 photos. It was a big chunk of money, but it was a strategic move that we made because we knew that by working with her, other people would want to work for us. So previous to working with her, we reached out to some influencers and nobody wanted to work with us. Post working with her and then having really cool motorcycles she took photos of, great imagery, other influencers can then see on our Instagram that we were like an interesting brand. And then you'd get like early adopters who would then work with us. And then as we worked with more and more influencers, some paid, some unpaid, then influencers who were like ignoring our messages previously started reaching out to us. Hey, sorry, I never saw this before. Or like, I didn't see this. Would love to work with you, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, I think the best thing on judging whether you should do a free product or paid is choosing when somebody is really worth it. If you're really excited to work for somebody, it might be worth it, but get like kind of quotes from like more than one influencer. If you have like A+ influencers you're like super stoked to work with, get quotes from like 5 or 10 of them, and you're going to see that range of payment for the same like level of individual is going to be very different. So I think like shopping around is super important. For North 45, we're doing a lot of like free product or very small paid efforts just because it's all that we can afford. But we did spend like, a few $1,000s this year working with Lael Wilcox. She's a famous ultra endurance cyclist. She used our product in a 350-mile race through Alaska in winter on her fat bike. We paid her. She has 100,000 followers, or maybe less. But anyway, she's like Rapha sponsored, Specialized sponsored. And then because we paid her, we're like doing a full initiative of content. Like we interviewed her, we got professional photos from her and videos. And coming up this season, we're launching this as kind of like a content capsule. And we're going to start doing the same thing with other influencers. So I think if you do pay an influencer, or even if you don't, it's important to like, boost the posts that they made for you. Get that, like expand that money that you've spent, like double down on that through paid advertising, or through creating a blog and using that through your newsletter. So I think influencers are great, but you shouldn't just be like one post and see if it makes sales. Some influencers make sales, some influencers don't make any sales, but what is within your control is like making a story around it and using that content to like share your brand values to your customers.
Nice. I think we've got time for one more question. Greg was wondering if you've ever used royalty type compensation for early influencers.
Yeah, royalty compensation works quite well with some influencers. There's a cycling influencer I know in Quebec. He does great with brands. He like worked with a cycling apparel brand, and he negotiated like a really good percentage back on each sale he made. And within one day, he sold like 300 cycling kits. So whether that was bibs and jerseys, or just bibs or just jerseys, but like, that brand made, who knows, $10,000, $15,000 in a day with that influencer. It works with some, it doesn't work with others, but typically the ones that have success with that style of compensation are keen to work like that because they know that with their content type, with their audience, they can make sales like that. And then there's going to be other influencers who won't do it at all because they haven't had success like that in the past, and that's okay. They may be, so yeah, you have to adapt your compensation sometimes based on the influencer you're working with or the campaign you're trying to launch.
Thanks for that. Perfect. Well, we're just at about time, so I'm going to just wrap this up quickly. You can stop sharing your screen if you'd like to, Ricky. And in the meantime, I'll just let everybody know that our July session will be on Thursday, July 4th. So usual time, 11:30 a.m. Pacific. And we'll send out details on the speaker soon. And then if you haven't registered for the Core Annual Summit, early bird pricing is still in effect. That's until June 30th. The dates for this year's summit is October 3rd and 4th, with an optional day on the 5th to stick around and enjoy the beautiful mountain town of Kimberly and all of its world-class outdoor recreation. Oh, and one more thing, coming up in Kimberly, there is an event happening the weekend of June 22nd and 23rd. So CORE is co-sponsoring the Round the Mountain Festival. They're going to be hosting a makers market at the venue. We would love to see you there. And that about does it. So I'm signing off the meeting, and until next time, thanks everyone. Thanks again, Ricky. See you soon.